for the first time confirming Russia is developing an underwater drone that can potentially travel thousands of miles and strike the U.S. coastline. While President Trump navigates the political minefield of the Russia investigation,
there's been no collusion. There's been no crime.
Pentagon and State Department unveiled the toughest line yet against Vladimir Putin's military in a report on nuclear threats and the Trump administration solutions.
Russia has increased its reliance on nuclear weapons and its capabilities, and it's, as we pointed out, it's building a large and diverse nuclear arsenal.
The Pentagon detailing 2,000 Russian nuclear-capable weapons that could hit Europe, including missiles, bombs, depth charges, and torpedoes.
A leaked Pentagon document says Russia is working on an underwater drone nuke. The autonomous underwater vehicle, dubbed Canyon by the U.S., was conceived to target coastal areas. Russia reportedly refers to it as Ocean Multi-Purpose System Status 6. The warhead measures 5.5 feet wide and is 79 feet long. According to Popular Mechanics, it has a range of 6,200 miles and can dive to over 3,000 feet and travel at 100 knots. The device can also wield a 100 megaton nuclear payload and reportedly contains the radioactive isotope cobalt-60. That means an area struck by it would be dangerously radioactive to humans for around a century.
The Trump administration released its blueprint for the United States nuclear arsenal today. It continues the Obama administration plans to rebuild all of America's nuclear-armed submarines, aircraft, and missiles. But it also calls for deploying new nuclear capabilities on submarines and ships. As Nick Schifrin reports, Pentagon officials say this is a response to what Russia and China are doing. Critics say the plan will spark a new arms race.
For more than half a century, the U.S. nuclear arsenal was designed to deter nuclear attack on America and its allies. Today, the Trump administration says the U.S.'s nuclear air, land, and sea weapons aren't strong enough.
We cannot afford to let it become obsolete.
The U.S. says it's trying to cope with adversaries increasingly threatening and complex. Russia is modernizing its nuclear arsenal and warns it's willing to launch relatively small nuclear weapons. China is expanding its conventional military and increasing its nuclear capacity. And North Korea is on the verge of creating a viable nuclear weapon that could hit the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Defense Patrick Shannon released today's Nuclear Posture Review, or NPR.
This NPR ensures we can deter any potential adversary because they are not all alike.
The review calls for deploying new, relatively small nuclear weapons carried on submarines and bringing back nuclear-tipped cruise missiles for ships. The review also says the U.S. would consider using nuclear weapons in response to non-nuclear attacks, such as strikes on critical infrastructure. John Rood is the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy.
In the context of a non-nuclear attack on the United States or our allies that was strategic in nature, that imposed substantial impacts to our infrastructure, to our people, that we would consider that context in evaluating the appropriate response, perhaps to include nuclear weapons.
It sees the world as more dangerous than any time since the Cold War.
Perhaps someday in the future there will be a magical moment when the countries of the world will get together to eliminate their nuclear weapons. Unfortunately, we are not there yet.
More than than half of the U.S. nuclear infrastructure is 40 years old. The Obama-era modernization was estimated to cost $1.2 trillion. Today's additions don't even have a price tag. But the Trump administration says whatever the price, it pales in comparison to a much more costly war.